Hey folks, I'm Taco, and I'm going to be repotting my willow leaf ficus, the bigger of my two today. I had pruned it up, waited for some buds to pop, and now I'm just realizing that this thing probably doesn't have any room for its roots, doesn't have enough soil in here to actually have nutrients for the plant, and I think I've got a big root that's wrapping around. So if I wait any longer to address that, I could suffer. The plant, that is, could suffer from a health standpoint, not just aesthetics. So I'm going to get started on that now. All right, this is that tree. Excuse me. You can see the pruning that I did. It's not a particularly spectacular tree, but it is my tree, so I'm very pleased with it. So today I'm going to repot it and just check on the health, as well as making sure that any kind of issues I've got are being addressed now. It's been quite a while since I repotted this tree. Ooh. And I hadn't tied it in, but I had put some like wire to keep the drainage string in. That wire is no longer really doing anything, so I don't have to worry about that so much. How well it comes out. Oh, all right. So unsurprisingly, it came out quite clean. Drainage screen right here. I also need better drainage in here, but really not a bad little pad. A bunch of roots on the bottom, but this root here is what I'm worried about. Although I'm pleased to see that it's not wrapped all the way around. So maybe I'd pruned that one before. Go ahead and clean this out. What's up, little man? You can see what I'm looking at there. It's quite a thick root. This one here is dead. Dead too. So I need to trim this back to the base, I think. I'm not super duper on getting good roots out of trees, but I know that this one has a very good capability for really good roots. I just have to keep them under control. One here is doing all right. It's a little high, so I might have to remove that. It was wrapping around that. If I didn't get it soon, I probably would run into issues with it. I was never the biggest fan of willow leaf ficus. I got a little one because I thought it was a really nicely shaped tree, and that's the other one I've got that's growing a little differently. I'd gotten this one because I was like, you know what? As much as I don't love it, it needs a rescue. It spent too much time in a nursery versus with the bonsai nursery, just a regular nursery, and they'd done a good job of care for it, but it just was suffering in health. So I got in there and took it home. Now, I didn't plan on uppotting this. I still want to keep it relatively small. However, I do have that larger pot from my Schefflera if I should need to uppot it. As it is now, like it's got good roots, just needs to be dealt with. And the new soil will be sifted. This soil will be saved and used for, well, first will be baked and then sifted. I just start getting back to baking my soil again. Yeah, really not a bad root base, just not exactly what I need. I think I'm going to go wash this and then we'll come back to it. All right, now, the biggest thing that I notice after washing is that these big roots have already been trimmed back. I just didn't trim them far enough back. I do have some soil left behind in here, which is okay. I can see little spots where I've got some soil. But really what I'm going to be doing is trying to reduce the height of this root mass so that this tree can thrive. And I don't want this big bulbous section. So I might be taking off quite a bit of roots today to get this back where it needs to be. But the first one is going to be this one right here. It's pointed the wrong direction. I don't need that, so that one's gone. Over here, this one is just not going in the right direction either, so it's also gone. And then I want to address this big one here. So it's not ideal, for sure. And take the top off it to start. My lack of coordination, you know. And then let's take a look under here. So this one's not as bad as that one was. This one was really bad. I think I might leave it like this. This is a good root. This is a good root. They're not great, but they're not terrible. This big one here, I have to take back. Probably all the way back. But first I'm going to start off right there. Brushing out. Give me a lot more capability to look at the root system too. So I need to take that farther back. I do have this one coming off the bottom there. I think with how far back I can cut, I already risk losing it. So I'm going to take this all the way back to the base. So that's now closer to flush. Another one's kind of funny is right here. I don't love the way it's headed. And I think in the same spot, I've got some roots that are just coming up from down below. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this one so it's not coming up like that. Hope, I've got something below that that can take its place. I can't remember what this root base looked like when I went through all this. It was last year, maybe the year before. I don't remember having this many roots. So I think a lot of these are newer and they're good, but not all. It's all the way off, I think. It's just not a good spot. There we go. Now this one's coming up. I'm not sure from where, but I do not want it. This one here is kind of crossing over. So I'm going to take it off and uncover some more of what I'm looking at here. These are both coming up. This one here is coming up. And this one here is coming up from down below. Now, this one here is not radial. It's not too bad. It's just not radial. Not sure that I want to keep it for that reason. This one here is okay. I actually like that one the best. This one next to it's not so great, so we're going to take that off. All right. So this one's nice. This one might be okay someday. It's down below the soil level, so I can't be too upset about it. I'm getting more and more roots that are below the soil level. They're usable, which is nice. I also got a lot of roots that aren't usable. All right, before I go too far into trimming the top here, say that, and then I've got to do this one here. Starting to come up. This one too, starting to come up. All right, so the bottom of this is extremely thick. I can get that far down, but really all this needs to be cut back. So I'm going to cut this back underneath here. Make sure I don't have as much vertical. Sorry if that's a little too high. Do a little profile. All right, and I still think that I've got too much mass under here. Like I've got a solid mass right here. So I'm going to come in and address that. This root here is coming from all the way over on the other side. I'll take that out. Lots and lots of thick roots that I do not want. This right here, I think, used to be a quite thick root. Now it is not. Ooh. Because I got one hitting a funny angle here. Is it starting there, ending there? Oh, it's coming off. It's no good. So a big root like this is one that I always need to address. So I'm going to come up in here and cut it off. I probably cut this back similarly last time I was in here, but just not quite as hard. Cut this all the way out of here. And just do everything I can to get this. There we go. So that's a little better in there now. It does give me some more visibility as well. I think I've sorted out all my giant roots. I should use this one here and just try to shave down. See if that does it. What I'm doing here is sort of like root carving. Oh, lost the end of it, but that's all right. It needed to be done. So sometimes in trying to do the right thing, you don't do quite what you wanted. All right, I'm going to take a little break to rinse this, and then we'll see what we have. After rinsing, I'm realizing two things. One, that a lot of these roots are just way too far down. Like this one's way too far down. My root base really needs to be closer to the swell, and I've got very few good roots there. But also I've got a lot of roots that are kind of going all over the place. So I have a decision to make here. I can leave these bottom roots and allow it to swell further down below, or I can cut it back even further. And I think that's what I need to do. I think I really need to go hard and cut even more of these roots out to get it up to that base. Much in the same way that one would trim taproots. This thing is just giant root mass. Not bulbous per se, just thick. So that'll have to be my first order of business, just getting everything back. A much smaller root mass. And this tree probably won't like it. Here again. Oh. Getting closer, of course. It's a big root mass, so that's always fun. And getting traction on such a large thing makes me appreciate why people have nibblers. These are concave cutters, they're not nibblers, so although they're good, they're not for this purpose per se. Confident cut there. And this is not without risk. And I'll say right now, it's quite scary, but it's got to be done. So I'm gonna keep working on this. I'll get nibbled away and we'll come back. All right, we are back. I think you can see there's quite some carnage here. So I cut almost all of it off. I did leave this root here. It's a nice healthy root. And I left this root that's not in the right direction, but really you can see these trees do tend to want to get very wide bases. So all this off the bottom is going to give me the ability to fix my base. Now I was going to put it in the back in the same pot, but I've got this one that's ceramic. It'll probably be better. Again, it's not too big for this pot or that pot. In fact, that pot may be slightly larger in capacity, but I do want to try to fix these roots. So now that I've cut all this off, where these roots were, it's now going to spread out a whole bunch of roots, hopefully up here where the cambium is. I dare not nibble any more down here, or cut away any more down here, for the sake of it healing. Now, if I was in a different position, I would use a blade and cut this down better, but I think I'll get a lot of good root growth as long as I keep it buried quite deep. I do not think that this will thicken up too much, nor these. I think they're okay. They barely fit in the pot. But I think right now I've got to get into a pot and not worry so much about the roots anymore, because really I've cut quite a bit of root mass out of this thing. So let me get some soil in my pot. We will continue on our journey. Now again, this is sifted soil. I want to make sure that I use the correct stuff. And use my big scoop for the initial because I will not need to put a whole lot more than just this. And I'm going to bury it quite deep. I do not want to have any issues with it falling out, of course. I also don't want to have any issues with these roots just not having anywhere to go. I want lots and lots of room. Even if I have roots growing upwards, I'm okay with that. I'm going to hold on to my little dead branch here. Just start to fill it all in. I'm using the correct side. All right. Sometimes your top looks like bottom, bottom looks like top. So I just double check every once in a while. Nothing wrong with that. Now, I don't need to adjust the angle per se, but now's a good time if I wanted to. Let's say I want to get this tree more upright. Could, of course, a little settle, do it more like this. And I think that would be okay. So I do want this to be my leader. So I'll do that little bit of sorting there. Again, with the goal just being all the soil in here. All right, I think that's a good soil level. The tree's not going anywhere. I didn't get it much more upright since I'd already placed it. But I'm not upset with where it's sitting. Quite a bit of root death here. Cut off a lot of roots. I'm hoping the tree will be okay. I never really know, but I think it'll be just fine. And I am quite pleased now to know that I don't have issues with these roots. These roots are much, much better. So this is it. Nothing two different up top. I do like this pot better. It's about the same size. But really, I think what I'm going to get into this time is it my front being somewhere in that area. All the growth up here, this of course is probably tough to see. All the growth up here hopefully will give me a good taper, a good front, and I can work on these roots some more. So I lost a little bit of my visible swell, but for the sake of making sure that the swell is where it should be and not where it was. All right, all that remains now is to water it in and put it back on the shelf. One of my viewers did say to me, and I appreciate it, about watering cans, that as nice as this was, I should look at different watering cans. In particular, he cited the cans that Nigel Saunders has. I actually got the opportunity to go look at his channel, and when you search for watering cans, he actually has some good videos on that. Not surprising. We all know who he is if we're watching my channel. And one of the recommendations he made was a Haws Conservatory 2-liter plastic can. This is about 700 milliliters, so it's a little bit less than a liter. It's the mini can. It's a good can. It doesn't quite have the reach. So with the 2-liter, I think you get a little bit bigger capacity. It won't look enormous compared to this. This is almost a liter, so it's about twice this size. But I think it's a thicker plastic, and the actual rose, which comes at the end, he had a good bit about that, where he spoke in it, I think it was in 2021, and the rose makes a big difference. So this one, I believe, is a fine, but there's not a lot of surface area, and because the smaller watering can, it may come out nicely, but you can see it doesn't quite get the velocity, and don't get quite the water volume. The 2-liter has a larger rose, and it seems to really, really dump out a lot of water in a very gentle way, which is what I'd like. So I'll probably look at investing in one of those in the future. You can, of course, get the can. I think it comes with a fine rose on it, but you can replace that down the road. They sell them, the roses, separately on their site. I did not find the 2-liter on their site, but I think that's just the right size. This is a little small. It's okay for indoors. The spray isn't amazing, but again, for indoors, when I'm in wintertime, this is fine. But during the rest of the year, I use a gas can with holes poked in a membrane to make it. And it doesn't quite do an eloquent job. It does okay, but it will disturb the soil. And I really find that after the soil is in place and I like where it's at, I don't want to disturb this soil. So for now, I'm going to put this one back on the bench. I'm liking the way it's looking. Of course, it's not a huge tree. It's not a very old tree. And I'm hoping to bring a lot of these branches further back into where there's good buds. But in this time, it is my tree. And I think when viewed from the front, right about there, it's a good looking tree. So I'll give it a year. We'll check the roots, and then that'll be that. All right, folks. It is back on the bench here. Everything's looking okay. Hopefully you can see as well as I can. I had planned on repotting this one, the wiggly ficus, or one of these two of my ginseng. This one, though, has good growth. I need to treat it for pests. This one has good growth, but I don't really see the need to repot it unless I'd want to pot it more deeply, which I would like to do. However, not really worth it right now. So I'll give those both a little bit more time. This one, however, my dwarf Barbados weeping cherry, is less dwarf, more weeping. On some of these runners, I've got 6 leaf sets, and they're starting to lignify. So as soon as I've got some good lignification on these long branches, see this one's got 4, 5 leaf sets, and then it's starting to branch out where it's lignified some. I believe these are outdoor leaves, but it's all one branch there. So seeing that I'm starting to get those hard woody stems on there, this one will be my next pruning project, I think. I don't have much else to prune that I would like to prune this year. So after this, it'll just be what repots need to be done, which will probably just be that ficus and maybe the smaller ficus here once it's budded out a little bit farther. It is getting some good growth, but I want to make sure that these branches survive up top here before I repot it. This one maybe, but I think it's been repotted too recently. A lot of these have been repotted real recently. This one may need a check in a couple months here, but for now, it's good. So I appreciate you all for watching. Thank you very much. Today is the day after Christmas. I think it is Hanukkah, but I don't remember if there's any other holidays today. But
Hope you all had a good one. And for those of you who don't hear from me before then, Happy New Year.